Welcome to PlayChat Podcast.
I'm Emma.
And I'm Sam.
We are two friends from high school who met for coffee and somehow we ended up here.
We'll be talking about theater, movies, music, and so much more.
You're listening to PlayChat. Hey, everybody.
Hello. Welcome to the first episode of PlayChat.
Welcome to PlayChat. We are so excited to be here. It's unreasonable how excited we are.
I cannot believe we're actually recording a podcast right now.
Either.
My goodness.
Okay, let's introduce ourselves.
Sure. All right. So, as you heard in our intro, I'm Sam.
I'm Emma. Should we tell them a little bit about ourselves?
Sure. You go first.
Okay. Yes, my name is Emma Cahoon. I am recording in Boston right now because I am a second-year student in the Boston University School of Theater. I'm pursuing a BFA in theater arts with a double minor in arts leadership and women, gender, and sexuality studies. That is a mouthful.
Yes, ma'am.
What else is there even to say about me? I'm a Taurus. Okay, there we go. I'm a Taurus sun, a Scorpio moon, which is terrible in case you're wondering, and a Virgo rising. And
love that.
I am currently obsessed with Greta Gerwig. I am always obsessed with Taylor Swift, always, and I cannot live without caffeine. And I think that's it for me. So, Sam.
Love it. All right. Well, I am Sam Griffin. I am currently recording from Chicago, Illinois, because I am a third-year student at Columbia College, Chicago, pursuing a BFA in musical theater performance. I am a Virgo sun, a Capricorn moon, and a Virgo rising, same as Emma. That makes a lot of sense that we're the same rising.
It makes so much sense. It makes so much sense.
Let's see. I am currently obsessed with fall scented candles.
Mm-hmm.
I am always obsessed with The Office.
Yes.
And I cannot live without fuzzy blankets.
So true.
Absolutely.
That is a great list. That's a great list.
Thank you so much. All right. Before we go any further, we just have to pause for a second. We have a very special person in the PlayChat family who has a birthday today. So it's Miss Syndey Stager, who is our producer for PlayChat. Today we are recording. It is September 5th, and it is Sydney's 20th birthday.
It's Sydney's 20th birthday.
Happy birthday, Syndey.
Sydney is everything. Happy birthday to our Marmy. We love you.
We love Syndey so much.
Listening.
We are so lucky to have her on our team.
Please wish Sydney a happy birthday.
It's going to be like a week and a half late, but go say happy birthday to Syndey.
But it's still worth it.
Still worth it.
Yes. Okay. And then our icebreaker.
Oh, sure.
We're gonna do our icebreaker.
Yeah.
So, I have a professor, for those of you from BUSAT, you will know who I'm talking about. He is my favorite person ever of all time, and he does the most wacky icebreaker questions all the time. And so I wanted to do one on PlayChat. So today's icebreaker question, we will both answer, and those of you listening at home, take a second and do some self-reflection. Consider this yourself. What Starbucks menu item do you personally identify with today? Not do you want to order. Do you feel as though best represents your state of being today?
That's a tricky question. I feel like there's so much on the Starbucks menu, and then it's also like there's hidden menu at Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
But today, let's see. I am feeling in a very fall mood recently.
Me
like
too.
I said, I'm obsessed with fall candles right now. And when I think of fall, I'm not a pumpkin spice gal, but I do love a good chai tea latte, and that feels very fall to me.
Yes.
So I feel like today I am like a cinnamon chai tea latte, but like with soy milk because So I think today I am feeling very cinnamon chai tea latte.
We had the same answer.
You're lying. You did not write that down.
I did. But my backup answer in case because I had a chai latte this morning.
I love that.
I had a chai latte this morning. My backup answer would be an apple crisp macchiato, which I've never tried.
Oh, I haven't tried it either.
I was looking at the Starbucks menu just like to prepare for this question, and I was sure. That's it. That's how I feel today. I feel like an apple crisp macchiato. Because part of me is like, would that even be good?
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about like
apple coffee.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about fruit coffee. Yes. Like that kind of like that feels like it like almost a strawberry coffee, and I don't think I would like that.
I agree. But anyways, very fall mood. We have a very similar answer. So
absolutely.
If you would like to comment on our Instagram posts or on our Patreon to let us know what Starbucks drink you feel like today, please let us know.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Real quick, we just wanted to tell you guys how we decided and why we decided to make a podcast in the first place.
What exactly are we doing here? You might be wondering.
So I don't even know how we got here, honestly. If I'm trying to trace it back, I think it was mid-July.
Mm-hmm.
Emma and I decided to just meet up for coffee.
Yeah.
We tried so hard to go to Janie's Cafe in Londonderry. Janie's Cafe in Londonderry. Shout out to you. We love you. Londonderry, New Hampshire. Go check them out.
That being said,
they were closed. It was a random day. I don't know why they were closed, but they were closed. Mm-hmm. So we ended up going to Troy's Cafe in Londonderry, which is a fully vegan.
Yeah, Troy's Fresh Kitchen. Fully vegan health food, also delicious,
so good. Just wanted to plug where we were real quick. But we ended up meeting at Troy's Cafe or Troy's Fresh Kitchen, and also Londonderry, New Hampshire.
Yes.
And I was a little nervous because I was like, oh, I haven't really talked to Emma
in
a while.
I was too.
I was like, oh, we'll just get coffee, like we'll be in and out in like an hour, it'll be quick. We talked for 5 hours.
We got there at 11 a.m. and left at 4 p.m. Like I was like, oh, I'm gonna get so much done today. I have a day off. Like I have so much like time to do all my things. No, we were together for 5 entire hours.
I think the only reason we even left was because we both had things we had to go to that night.
Yes. We were like, oh my God, it's 4 p.m. We have to go. But it was amazing. It was an amazing coffee date. It
was great.
We talked a lot. We like showed each other our work from the past year, which was really cool. And yeah, it's really cool to like have a close friend who's passionate about the same things that you are, especially like in a career oriented sense. And so that's part of the reason that Sam was like, we should start a podcast. And I was like, whoa, hold on.
Well, because I said it mostly as a joke because we both love The Office, which you will come to find out on this show.
We do.
And I have been obsessively listening to Office Ladies hosted by Jenna Fisher and Angela Kinsey for the past year. I've loved Office Ladies. So as a joke, I was like, ha ha, what if we had a podcast? And then we were silent for a few seconds.
We were like, whoa.
And we were like, wait,
that's powerful.
And it's funny to us because we don't really expect anyone to listen to this.
This is just because doing it for fun.
Hey, I've always been told that my voice is good for podcasts. So
I think here I am. I think it's a great voice.
Inflating my ego by making a podcast. But so we kind of did this as a joke, but we also thought it would be such a cool way to feature not only our own original work, but also people in our communities, because we are in such different places. Emma has the Boston community and I'm here in Chicago. And then when we meet up, we're both in New Hampshire and there are so many local artists in all of those areas. So we wanted to give a chance to feature people we know and people in our communities that we really want to talk to and talk about their work. And then also just to talk about random silly things that you guys might want to talk about. So yeah, that's kind of how PlayChat came to be.
That is what we are doing here. And we hope that you enjoy it because we do already.
We're already having so much fun.
We've had so much fun with this.
And yeah, so we talked for 5 hours that first day. And the next day we got coffee, or the next time we got coffee, we talked for an additional 5 hours.
Yes. We can't not talk.
And then
in
the next time we got coffee, it was like 3 hours, but I had to leave because I had a job interview.
So true.
So we figured if we're talking for all this time, we might as well have something
Might as well put it on the
productive.
internet. That is true.
So for our first ever episode, our theme is pilots. So this episode is called The Pilot.
First things.
So absolutely. True. So in our episode today, we, as always, we have a structure we're going to follow on PlayChat. So first up, we will have 2 audience voted segments. So you guys get to vote for those. For our first episode, we had those voted on our Instagram polls, but eventually we'd love to move those over to our Patreon. And that's a way for you guys to really interact and hear what you want to be talked about on PlayChat. So first up, we're going to have our 2 voted segments.
Yeah.
After that, we are going to be focusing on our main topic today of what makes a great opening. And we have a lot of fun stuff there.
We have so much. I'm so excited.
So much to talk about.
We're going to talk about musicals, plays, movies, music, everything you can imagine.
Absolutely. If we in the future have any guests coming on, we'll chat with them for a bit, do a little interview. And then potentially we could also add in some readings of some new work. I know we're thinking about that for next
so exciting
2 weeks from now, because we're doing every 2 weeks for now. But yeah, just a little overview of today's episode. So without further ado, I think it's time we jump into our first segment, Emma.
I'm so excited.
Me too.
All right. Am I going first?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, everyone. So before Emma's section, we're going to talk about what our voted segments actually are. So every 2 weeks or so, before every episode comes out, you will have a chance to vote on 2 segments, one that is done by Emma and one that is done by me. So this week, Emma, I believe you are doing a play review.
I am doing a play review. Sam and I actually, the votes tied.
They did tie.
Both were voted to do a top 5. But Sam's going to do a top 5. So I'm going to do a play review, which was the second most voted thing for me first. So I just want to preface this by saying I am not a play reviewer. I am not like trained in this. I have no education in how to talk about this. But this was a fun excuse to read a play that I've been meaning to read. So that was exciting. This week, I read a play called Dance Nation by Claire Barron. I should have looked up notes about the playwright in advance, but I can do that very quickly, I'm sure. But I wanted to read Dance Nation because it keeps coming up around me. My parents operate a nonprofit company in New Hampshire, a nonprofit theater company, and they are doing Dance Nation in February. Part of the reason that I love Dance Nation is because as of late, I've been really into adaptations and like adaptations of stories into plays. Dance Nation is based on Dance Moms, but not in any way that you would ever think. Dance Nation is essentially like an uber feminist, one could say, telling of dance moms that really focuses less on the reality TV aspect of it and more on the fact that these are children. And it's a kind of a feminist coming of age story about a dance team. But it's told in an incredibly creative way that I'm obsessed with. So I'm just going to read you one of the opening notes in the script. Claire Barron writes, "Think of this as a ghost play. The actors' older bodies are haunting these 13-year-old characters. We're getting to see who they grow up to be. And these 13-year-old characters are haunted by the specters of what they will become. At times, we should be fully in 13-year-old land with all of its ridiculousness, pain, and pleasure. And at times, we should be palpably aware of the actors' real ages and their distance from this moment in their lives." So essentially, all of the characters are 13 years old, but they're played by actresses of any age. So I think the note in particular is like 14 to like 75, 85, something like that. So they should be played by actresses of any age, which I think is just beautiful. I think that's a beautiful way to tell a story. And where to begin? I mean, it's just a fucking incredible play. I am also a sucker for a story that isn't always told linearly. And so one of my favorite things about Dance Nation is when it kind of switches in and out of that, like she says, the 13-year-old, kind of the present moment, them being 13. And then when it switches into when you're very aware of the fact that these are women of all ages playing these characters. And there are moments when the characters switch from the dialogue to a direct address. And those are the moments when essentially it's similar to Our Town, where you're hearing the character's future, but in the context of the present moment that they're living in, which just blows my mind because I love nonlinear storytelling more than like anything else on the planet. But also something of note with Dance Nation is the gore. I was not expecting the gore in reading this play. It is gross. And I also always love to read a play that makes me just, I don't understand how you stage it, because I'm an aspiring director. I want to be a director. And so I am constantly reading plays and trying to see them in my mind. And I don't understand how this is staged. It like
because of like the violence,
because there's violence, there's blood, there's like horror movie gore.
Oh my God.
And at the same time, there's like 30-person children's dance competition numbers going on. So it just bends my mind, and that really excites me. But this note that I wrote to, that I took right from the opening notes kind of plays on that too. She says, cuteness is death, pagan feralness and ferocity are key. It is so much darker and grosser and like gorier than you can ever think. But it's amazing. I have a bunch of quotes, and I think I just want to read this one. It's a bit longer, so I'll read just this one, but it's a quote from the play. If I could change the world through dance, if I could change the world by dancing with my body, if I could dance away my mom's cancer and my friend Alyssa's depression and the way she won't stop eating Skittles when she's hungry instead of eating proper food, if I could dance away world hunger and all violence against women and all pets without a home and all the sadness and the meanness, if I could dance and nobody ever would want to kill another person again or be racist again or feel alone at night again or abandon their pets without a home again, that's what I would do. That's what I would do. That's what I want to do with my life.
I just got chills from that.
Doesn't that take your breath away?
Oh my God.
It's incredible. But that's kind of a look at the way that she writes. And then just, it's interesting. I also, when I read plays, I constantly think about whether it's more interesting to read a play on the page or to see it staged. And, I will see this play staged in a few months because there are productions of it happening around. But reading this on the page, the way that she writes, she lineates on the page very interestingly with font size. So the font size is constantly changing based on kind of like the emotion or the volume or the dynamics of the moment, which I think is also just fascinating. So it's a very interesting play to read because you can almost hear it in your head as you see it like move around all over the page, which is really interesting. And this is just the type of play that I want to be able to write because I think that it is just genius. And I think, I took a class last semester, and one of the major units of the class was about like feminist reclamation in art and how feminists use art as a method basically of their political activism. And this, I think, is a perfect example of that. And it blows my mind. I mean, there's so much reclamation of one's own body, but I think one of the beautiful things about the way that the story is told is that it's reclamation for the playwright and for the actors, because these are older women playing younger people, but the younger people, it's a coming of age. So there's no reclaiming to do, it's claiming, if that makes sense. It's the claiming without the reclaiming. So it just bends my mind. And it is a beautiful play, and I highly recommend that you read it. And I don't know that it made any sense for me to just talk about it like this. But also I went
totally
back and forth a lot about whether or not I wanted to come up with like a rating system, like a 10 out of 10 or like a 5 out of 10 or something. But I also just know that pretty much every play I read ever, I'm going to give like a 10 out of 10 because I just read a lot of really good plays. So it's really hard for me to like particularly articulate on like a scale like that how great this play is, but it is so worth reading. Of course, it would be just outrageous to see on stage, but I highly recommend that you pick up a copy of it or try to find one online and read this play because it's incredible and I could talk about it for a long time. So
amazing. All right. Well, I just pulled up some of Claire Barron's.
Great.
I pulled up her Wikipedia page.
Iconic.
So just a quick little Wikipedia, Claire Barron. Claire Barron is a playwright and actor from, I'm going to butcher this, Wenatchee, Washington. She won the 2015 Obie Award for playwriting for her play You Got Older. And she was a finalist for the 2019 Pulitzer Prize for Drama for Dance Nation. And she graduated from Yale University with a BA.
Dream. Queen.
So
Queen. Yeah. And I just think it's an amazing piece of writing. And I think what's so exciting about it for me to read is while you're reading it, it kind of allows me to like put on all of my different artistic hats as I read it and get excited about it from multiple perspectives, because I'm like, oh my God, I would love to be in this play. And then I'm like, oh my God, I would love to direct this play. And then I'm like, oh my God, I wish I wrote this play. Like it kind of allows you to look at it like that in so many different lenses. And I think something really cool about her writing, and it's something that I would love to achieve in my own writing someday, is the way that it is so specific and it's so nuanced that it kind of allows you to see it in your head, but it also gives you so much freedom if you are an actor or if you are a director working on this piece. I can't, every production of this play has to be so incredibly different, and everybody's relationship working on this play to this play just has to be so outrageously different, even though it is so specific and so nuanced and just detailed, and like there's just so much depth to it. But yeah, it was a really exciting read and I highly recommend it. It's empowering and also disgusting and lovely and horrifying. And there were moments when I laughed on the same page that I cried. So I highly recommend Dance Nation.
Thank you so much, Emma. I feel like I wish I had read Dance Nation and I had something to contribute. I definitely need to read Dance Nation. All right. So for my segment, let's just say something real quick. Emma is so smart. And my segment it is the most ridiculous thing compared to that glorious review of Dance Nation. I'm equally as
excited about it. It's going to be incredible.
All right. So here's the silly part, folks. So my section, we had tied for top 5 blank. So we decided that Emma would do a play review and that I would take top 5. And I wasn't sure what top 5 things to rate, but my second most voted poll was a movie/TV review. So I decided I would rank my top 5 TV shows, but that's way too broad. So I limited it down to my top 5 Netflix original
I'm so excited
series.
To hear this.
I feel like I'm going to get a lot of heat for this list.
I might argue
because people are so opinionated when it comes, especially to Netflix shows, I found. So I gave myself some classifications to help narrow it down a little bit more. So Christine's in the chat. Christine is our editor, by the way. Christine Kattar, love her so much. She's in the chat saying that she is very opinionated about her Netflix list. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I gave myself some classifications. My first thing was that I was not going to be including any shows that were created as a limited series. And I did this because I think it's important when you're talking about a television series that there's opportunity to grow past one season. And so many of the shows that I love have grown past one season. And I think season 2 in almost all of them is better than season 1. So that was important to me. My second piece of classifying, I don't know what word I'm looking for. The second thing is that it had to be completely original on Netflix. I didn't want something where it had existed previous and then Netflix picked it up and did a final season, or something like, I know this just happened with the TV show Manifest. They got canceled and Netflix is picking them up for their last season. I didn't want to do something like that. I wanted it to be completely original to Netflix. And the last classification I gave myself is that I need to have seen every single available episode.
It's only fair.
Because I feel like I can't, it's only fair. I can't say it's one of my top 5 if I'm like, but I haven't finished it yet. You know, I had to have finished it. So that being said,
I'm so excited.
I will start from the bottom. Coming in 5th place on my list is the marvelous Julie and the Phantoms.
Oh, okay. Fair.
Right?
Fair.
I am the kind of girl who grew up watching Kenny Ortega Disney Channel original movies. I was growing up as like High School Musical came out. What else did Kenny Ortega do? I don't even know. High School Musical was so game-changing for me.
Yes.
So I am just obsessed with anything Kenny Ortega does. Yes. I first watched Julie and the Phantoms, and I feel like this is an important part of why I like it so much, in quarantine.
Fair enough.
And not just like COVID was going on. I was in a 14-day mandatory isolation quarantine room.
Yep.
And that's when I watched Julie and the Phantoms. And I was just so obsessed with it. First, talking about opening sequences, the opening sequence of Julie and the Phantoms, that song is incredible.
Yeah, fair.
I love a good boy band. I love a good boy band. Okay. I also grew up with One Direction.
Joe Bros.
So I love a good boy band moment.
Yeah.
I am living for the representation in Julie and the Phantoms. Yes, a Latinx main character.
True.
Love that for her.
And there's also isn't there also a gay couple?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. They're canon right now, but it's like we definitely are moving there.
Yeah.
If they get confirmed for season 2, which hasn't even happened yet, which I cannot believe. No.
Oh, I thought it did.
No, they haven't been confirmed for season 2 yet.
Okay.
And it's making me crazy. And I also, it's making me crazy. So I love Julie and the Phantoms. I'm a musical theater girl. I love good original music. I love the storytelling. It's so nostalgic, so fun to me.
It is.
I love Julie and the Phantoms. So that comes at number 5 on my Netflix list.
That's fair. My roommate Sarah from last year is obsessed with Julie and the Phantoms. Shout out Sarah.
Shout out Sarah. Number 4 is one that might not be known to a lot of people.
Okay.
Because it is not originally in English. And I am a girl that watches everything with captions, so I'm fine with that.
So it doesn't matter. Okay, period.
But there are a lot of people out there, maybe listening to this podcast, that don't like watching things with captions. So this might not be the show for you, but I really highly recommend it. It's so good. Number 4 is Young Royals.
Oh, okay.
Young Royals just came out. I think it just got released this year. So they must have filmed it before or during COVID, and they just released it.
Okay.
It comes from Sweden, and it is about this boy who is he's the prince of Sweden, I imagine.
Okay.
And he has an older brother who's the crown prince, but he is kind of like a troublemaker, a little bit of like a Prince Harry type.
Sure.
And he's a teenager. So he's like 16.
Yeah.
He gets sent to this boarding school to kind of like get him into shape to be the prince for the rest of his life.
For sure.
To like fix up his problems. And there he meets this boy who's just like a regular civilian boy.
Princess and the Pauper moment.
But romance. Okay. They have a romance.
Shit.
And I love it so much.
I'm sold.
It just got released on, I believe that said July 1st, but it's about Willem and, I don't know his name. It's all right. Willem and Simon. Those are their names.
Simon
and Willem. And they are gorgeous to start off.
They are gorgeous.
Also, the main character, Willem, has acne as a teenager. And it's never discussed.
Period.
It's just a thing. And I love that. because you never see
iconic.
that.
No, you never ever see that.
So that's already something that I was super obsessed with. But anyway,
that's amazing.
It's great.
I'll have to watch it.
Great
I'm intrigued.
Show. It's in Swedish, so I just watch it with captions because I don't do dubbing. I would rather their mouths line up with the sound and I can just read.
I agree.
It's so good. It has great comment. It's like a great coming of age thing. It also has a lot of commentary on responsibility and also familial pressure.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And it has a lot to do with identity as well, because it's hard enough to come out as gay, but then when you're the prince,
you're right.
Like that's not really a thing.
Yeah.
So I love Young Royals. Please go watch it. That's number 4 on my list. Keeping with the royal theme, number 3 on my list is none other than The Crown.
Oh my God.
Because I am obsessed with the royal family.
Sam, I've never seen The Crown. Don't come for me.
Emma. All right. I got to shout out my mom, Laura Griffin. Love you so much. My mom and I watched The Crown together. So that's probably another reason why it has such a special place in my heart. But we started watching The Crown. I think I started watching it originally. And then I was home and she started watching it with me. And then we just started watching it together.
Yeah.
It's so good. And something I love about The Crown is that every 2 seasons, they completely switch out their actors.
Oh, really?
Which is so interesting because then you get to see how different actors take on the same characters.
Wait, I'm obsessed with that.
Right? So season 1 started with Claire Foy, who's incredible. I love Claire Foy. Claire Foy is the queen.
Yes.
And she's like 19. And then all of a sudden her dad dies and she's queen now. And she has to get married. Girl bossing. She's the first. And it's so interesting because there's a lot of it that is based in history, but then so much of it is just made up of what you think their conversations might have been like.
Yeah.
So it's not actually a documentary. It's very much historical fiction. And I love historical fiction.
Yeah, I love historical fiction too.
Anyway, The Crown is episode ranking 3. Number 2 on my ranking, the classic. I feel like it was one of the first Netflix original series.
Okay.
Stranger Things.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Millie
Bobby Brown. I feel like almost no one can make a ranking of their top 5 Netflix shows, and Stranger Things isn't on it.
Yeah.
Because it's just so good.
It's iconic at this point.
It has one of the best TV ensembles I think I've ever seen in my life. And I was honestly very much debating on whether or not it should be 1 or 2 on my list.
Fair. I'm so excited to hear your number 1 now.
I know. I love Stranger Things so much. I love anything with a young cast. I think young casts are so impressive. I love Millie Bobby Brown. I think she is an icon. Yeah. And she is so growing into her own. Yeah. And I am just like, I'm watching Millie Bobby Brown grow up right now.
Also, like, what a role. Like,
right?
Oh my God.
Like, imagine getting that role. I think she was like 13 when she got that role. Like, could you imagine?
No.
Or like, she might have even been younger than that. I don't even know how old she was. But just incredible. I love Finn Wolfhard, Caleb McLaughlin, Gaten Matarazzo.
I have such a funny story about Gaten Matarazzo.
Okay. All right. I also love Winona Ryder and David Harbour.
Oh, absolutely.
I love them all so much. It's such a great cast. Joe Keery is dreamy and I love him so much. So Stranger Things is number 2. My number 1 favorite Netflix original series of all time, Sex Education. I love Sex Education. When I watched Sex Education, I had never seen a show like it before in my life. There is nothing on television that reminds me of Sex Education. And I think that is so interesting and so hard to find nowadays. Like, everything reminds someone of something else. Nothing reminds me of Sex Education. Yeah. I think it is so completely original in the story that it tells.
That is so cool.
I love this is a show where I love how many side plots there are. There's so much going on all the time. Yeah. I love every single character on that show. I just like, I don't think I've ever seen, and I said with Stranger Things, it's such a good ensemble. I think Sex Education has the most well-rounded ensemble of any TV show I've ever watched. And that's so important to me. I'm such an ensemble person, so I'm obsessed with Sex Education. Yeah. I love it. It is so funny. it's season 2 ended on like just enough of a cliffhanger that I'm like, oh, I need to see season 3. I love Sex Education so much. So that is my number 1 Netflix original series.
There we go.
Top 5.
That's top 5. I feel like I have so many things to watch.
Well, I gotta go read Dance Nation. So
Dance Nation.
All right, everyone. I think it's time that we move on to our actual main topic of this episode. Because believe it or not, we haven't got there yet.
We haven't even gotten there.
So as our pilot episode, we wanted to talk about what makes great openings. So we have 4 different categories we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about our favorite movie openings, our favorite songs that open an album, our favorite TV pilot episodes, and our favorite opening musical numbers.
Let's start with pilots. TV pilots, since that's the kind of like idea.
Sure.
If you know either of us at all, we are both obsessed with The Office, which Sam said earlier.
Yes.
But The Office pilot sucks.
So bad.
The Office pilot is terrible. And part of the reason that I wanted to really like hone in on what specifically makes a really good opening of something, what makes a really good first scene or first song or pilot episode, because my dad has a friend, one of his college professors, and now they are good friends and colleagues. And she said to like him or in his class or something that before you give up on a book, you have to read the first 20 to 25 pages. Like you have to read the first 20 to 25 pages of something before you give up on it. And then he said that to me. And so I've kind of always carried that with me, but I wanted to put that aside for now. And I don't want to talk about things that, you need to give a chance. I want to talk about things that immediately I am just absolutely into and know I have to watch the whole thing or listen to the whole thing or whatever. Like just instantly get me excited.
Right
and
away.
The Office is not one of those things.
No.
And it was actually that was like widely regarded. People did not like the first like season of The Office, really. Sam and I were talking about it, I think the other day, and like it took me really into like basketball to get sold on The Office.
There are so many people I've talked to where I'm like, oh, you need to watch The Office. And they were like, oh, I've tried. I just don't like the first few episodes. And I'm like, you have to get past them.
Yes.
And that's so hard when you're recommending a new show to someone.
It is.
Because for me, it is season 1, episode 3 that hooked me, which is healthcare.
Okay, yeah.
That's loved when Dwight had all that authority in healthcare. I thought it was incredible. Yes. But it took me until episode 3.
Yeah. Which like really not everybody's going to wait. Not everybody's going to give it that much of a chance.
But season 1 starts with the pilot is the first episode. Then you have Diversity Day, episode 2. Episode 3 is healthcare. Episode 4 is The Alliance, which is also great.
Also a great episode.
Episode 5 is basketball.
Basketball. That's what
episode 6 is Hot Girl, which guest stars Amy Adams.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyways, all of that is to say, I don't have time for that. No. I am the type of person who, it's because I'm an anxious person. I have comfort shows, comfort artists, comfort movies. And so if I'm going to watch something new or listen or read something new, like it has to grab me from the beginning or I will lose it. Yes. And like we live in a streaming world. It's literally so easy to switch to something else if I don't like something immediately, like so fast. And I do that. So I wanted to talk about things that grab me from the minute I start. And so I was thinking about great pilots. And I started by thinking about just like my favorite shows, and a lot of them don't have like notably good pilots. So I guess for some reason they just must have been recommended to me enough that I was like, whatever, I'll watch them. However, one of maybe the best pilots I've ever watched is The Good Place. The Good Place
is also on my list.
Of course it is. The Good Place has such a good pilot, and I rewatched it today.
So good.
I rewatched it today to be able to talk about this. But there's something, I mean, I was going to say there's something about it as if I couldn't explain, but
guys, she has like a page of notes about The Good Place.
Notes about it. But I just want to like, from the instant it begins, the third shot of the whole episode is the wall that says, "Welcome, everything is fine." And that is just, I'm like,
incredible.
I'm in. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm in. Like, that is so cryptic. That is so just funny that I am sold. And then I think what's so great about the Good Place pilot, which I think is kind of the balance that you have to strike with a pilot episode, is there's not too much setup, but there's like enough setup that you know what's going on, but there's not too much that it's like, okay, nothing even happened in that episode. I just like met a bunch of characters. Like, why do I care? That's kind of what happens in The Office pilot and pilots like that. It's like nothing even happened, but like the initial conflict of the episode of the Good Place pilot is introduced before the 10-minute mark. So it's like immediately there is conflict. Immediately there is like something that'll at least get me through that like 25-minute period, whatever. And then it also happens to leave you with like, I mean, in this case, a pretty large cliffhanger bringing you into the next episode. And it sets up, you know, relationships that last for the whole episode, and it's also, or for the whole show. And it's also like watching, you know, because again, like streaming, I have watched almost all of The Good Place, and so I go back and I watch the first episode again because I have the capability to do that. And I always love when I go back to the beginning of a show and it's like so much, it's like more brilliant the second time that I watch it, because there are things that I'll pick up on that time watching it through that I didn't see the first time watching it through. Of course. So I think that The Good Place pilot is just, I think it's a great pilot. So that was one of mine.
One of my best pilots. And it's following the theme. I think a lot of comedy shows have really good pilots. And I'll talk about some dramas in a second that I think have really good pilots. But one of my favorite pilots ever is the pilot of New Girl.
Yes.
And even I started to rewatch it today, and I didn't even have to get past the first minute to be like, it's a great pilot.
Yeah.
Because within the first minute, the show starts in my favorite way. And this is something The Office does a lot, where you think there's just one character in the room, and then eventually you realize that they're telling a story to a bunch of people that have just been sitting there.
Yes.
And I pulled up the transcript of the first line just because I love it so much. So it starts with Jessica Day, who is played by Zooey Deschanel, who's incredible. And this is her first line. Jess says, "So, you know, in horror movies, when the girls are like, oh my God, there's something in the basement. Let me just run down there in my underwear and see what's going on in the dark. And you're like, what is your problem? Call the police." And she's like, okay, but it's too late because she's already getting murdered. Well, my story is kind of like that. And if that is not the most brilliant hook that I've ever heard, especially considering her story is nothing like that.
No, it's nothing like that at all.
And the only thing that is similar is that she is
standing in her underwear,
partially naked.
That's the only thing. Yeah.
It's the only part of it that's similar. Yeah. And I just love that you come to find out later in the pilot that she is sitting there at her interview to be a roommate for these three men.
Yeah.
And this is the story she's telling.
Yeah.
And I think it is hilarious.
It's so good. I'm in the middle of New Girl right now, and it's so good.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And then when it cuts back to them being in the apartment after Jess tells her story, she goes, she says her thing, and then she says, "I'm sorry, what was the question again?" And Nick responds that the question was, "Do you have any pets?"
It's so good. It's
my favorite thing.
And also, okay, this is going to bring me right into one of my other pilots. I also love when you can go back and watch a pilot, and from the beginning to like the end of the season or the end of the show, or like any time within the show, wherever you like are, or however much of it you have watched, you can go back to the pilot. And I just love when the characters are still consistent to what they started out as. And that's something that I at least like, I think I'm in season 3 of New Girl right now. So like I have a bit left, obviously, but the characters, like going back and watching the pilot, are like the core of who they are, and their mannerisms and their performances are the same. And another example of that I had on my list was Schitt's Creek. I went back and I watched some scenes from the Schitt's Creek pilot. Ooh. And the character building.
I do not like the Schitt's Creek pilot.
You don't?
No.
Interesting.
I think a big thing for me in a pilot is that there has to be some sort of high stakes involved for me to really get invested in a pilot. Sure. And it's the same reason as to why The Office pilot doesn't really do it for me.
Sure.
I feel like there's no stakes.
Yeah.
And in the pilot of Schitt's Creek, it's like, yes, they just got kicked out of their mansion and they're in this new town. But I don't feel like, for me in the pilot, at least, because I haven't had enough time to get to know these characters, I'm like, these are just rich, spoiled people.
Okay, that's
whatever.
Fair. That's fair.
So I'm not a big fan of the Schitt's Creek pilot, but I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Okay, well, there's multiple hats to this, because like I absolutely agree with that, because now that you say that, I am like, yeah, like what is it about the characters that is like either providing me with that? I guess it's like sympathy. Like, why do I care? Why do I care that this happened to these characters?
Yeah.
Like, I guess I don't really, because you're right. They are like shallow people and they're kind of the worst. But
in episode 1, I love Schitt's Creek.
Yes. For me, I think it's the performances, because as an actor, I'm like, Catherine O'Hara
is brilliant.
Are you kidding me? And then that's one of the
Dan and Eugene Levy.
Yeah,
they're insane.
Like insane. They're all so
I'm looking up the name of the girl who plays Alexis while you're talking, because I want to give her credit.
Annie Hampshire, is that her name?
No, Emily Hampshire.
Emily Hampshire is Stevie. Annie Murphy.
Thank you so much. She's also great.
She's also incredible. They're all so good. And so I think from an acting standpoint, it's I was like, okay, I have to keep watching this. Like, they're
just for Catherine O'Hara.
Just for Catherine O'Hara. But plot wise, I would agree with you. But yeah, okay. All right. I want to hear about some of your dramas. I'm curious.
I have a few dramas that I really enjoyed the pilots for.
Yes.
In terms of the one that is the most of a drama, I love the pilot for The Haunting of Hill House.
I have not seen The Haunting of Hill House.
And I know not everyone has seen it, because I have a lot of friends that aren't into like scary things.
Yeah.
But the pilot of Haunting of Hill House is so brilliant to me. And I can't even say anything, because there's a spoiler in the first episode.
Yeah.
And the spoiler is what automatically was like, I have to keep watching. Like, what is going on right now? Another thing I love about Haunting of Hill House is that the story is not linear.
Yes.
It jumps around between when they're kids and then when they're adults. And I love nonlinear storytelling. I love that I'm not given everything in order. I love that it bounces back and forth. And I'm like, oh, that's where that came from. And the pilot introduces that so well.
Yeah.
And I love the pilot so much. The opening monologue, gorgeous. I'm pulling up the script for episode 1. This is what it says. And for everyone who doesn't know, Haunting of Hill House is based off a book by Shirley Jackson, same name.
Okay.
And this is also the same monologue, the same opening from her book, Haunting of Hill House. I love it. This is the opening. No live organism can continue to exist sanely under the conditions of absolute reality. Even larks and katydids are supposed by some to dream. Hill House, not sane, stood by itself against its hills, holding darkness within. It had stood so for 100 years before my family moved in, and might stand 100 more. Within, walls stood upright, bricks met neatly, floors were firm. Silence lay steadily against the wood and stone of Hill House, and whatever walked there walked alone.
Oh, that is
like,
so
are you kidding?
Good.
Shirley Jackson,
so
gorgeous, and I love that they kept that the
good.
same for the TV show, because it's a gorgeous
that
opening.
Is really great.
And just from that first 20 seconds, I was like, oh, I have to watch this episode.
I have to listen. Yeah,
I have to watch it.
Yeah.
So that was one of my dramas that I really liked.
Yes.
The other, and this one isn't as much of a drama, but it definitely, I would classify it as a drama. Grey's Anatomy. My thing with Grey's Anatomy is in the pilot, it starts, Meredith is at a bar. She gets drunk. She sleeps with this guy. They wake up. She's like, all right, got to go to work. Leave. She goes through most of her workday. She meets Alex, Izzy.
Yes.
Oh my God. Incredible. Christina. Like amazing ensemble work.
Yes.
In Grey's Anatomy. I love it so much. And then you find out at the end of the episode, the man she slept with is her boss.
So true.
Like
McDreamy.
I was like, I have to watch it.
Okay, I only have one more pilot episode to talk about, and I'm going to talk about it kind of quickly because I don't remember it entirely in detail. However, the pilot of WandaVision, we would be remiss to not discuss the pilot of WandaVision. So it's funny because I was like taking notes on pilots, and I took all my notes about the Good Place pilot, and then I immediately switched to WandaVision because something in the Good Place reminded me of the WandaVision pilot, which is that one of the things that I love about the Good Place pilot is that they throw you in and you're like immersed in the world for the first time with like you and Eleanor Shellstrop are going through the world for the first time together. That is not the case in WandaVision. In like, which, you know, there's a lot there and there's like tons of spoilers there and whatever. It's very complicated. However, something that I think the WandaVision pilot does so well is achieve a level of intrigue that isn't frustrating to me. Because if it's just like cryptic for like no reason, and it's just like, what is keeping me wanting to know the answer? You know what I mean? Like, what is like, why do I want to know this? Then it's like, I'm not into it. But the WandaVision pilot, there's like such good intrigue, and it's just in these little moments of just genius. So I love the WandaVision pilot, and also the design. The production design is incredible. The performances are incredible. And I was like, okay, I have to know what's going on now. So I kept watching.
All right, everyone, we're going to move on to our favorite movie opening sequences. And I think the first one I'm going to say is agreed on by literally anyone who has seen the movie.
I know. I think I know.
You're going to know right away. My absolute favorite opening sequence of all time, Baby Driver.
That's not what I was going to say. Oh my God. Okay. Here's the thing. I freaking love. Okay. It's really hard because I love Baby Driver so much, but the cast is full of sexual predators.
I know.
So unfortunate.
Here's the thing. It's a good movie. Cast leaves a lot to be desired. Yes.
I literally
the opening sequence
is incredible. And that's part of the reason that I love that movie.
I love it. Just because I had never watched a movie. And if you look at the script, it's written in the script that the movie and all of the shots revolve around the music they picked.
Yeah.
And I'd never seen a movie like that before.
Yeah.
So every single car door close, every single engine rev, every single turn, everything is synchronized exactly. And it's written in the script that it matches at this point in the song. And I think it's incredible.
It's insane.
And I had never been so instantly hooked on a movie. And I love that they kept that throughout the rest of the movie. Everything is based on the music.
So it's so interesting that you say that, because my like number one first thing that came to mind for a good opening of a movie is the soundtrack. And the perfect example for me of a soundtrack that just immediately had me hooked, and it's the soundtrack and also the way that the soundtrack pairs with the plot in that moment, and this is what I thought you were going to say, is the opening of Up. It is just iconic now.
It's very iconic.
The opening of Up, if you're not remembering, is, which I'm sure you do, is It's Married Life, that song, the
sing it for us, Emma. So good.
And it's the animation of Carl and Ellie's relationship throughout life, and then she passes. It's
brutal. That one hurts.
It's like it's R.I.P. Ed Asner. Thinking
such a man.
It's insane. Like, it is such a good movie opening, and I know it's a children's movie, but it is just beautiful. Like, it is absolutely beautiful. So that was immediately the first thing that came to mind. And I think, and for me, like in both of those examples, it's sound. Like, the sound design is what immediately like perks up my ears, and I'm like sold.
Opens with a song. Is the opening to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, the second one. Because obviously that first opening is iconic with him kicking away all the slugs and doing all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the opening to Guardians 2 is so funny to me, and I love it so much. I don't want to give away spoilers, but it's been out for a while, so I'm going to do it. So Guardians 2 opens, the Guardians are like fighting on this planet, and Groot is there, but he's a baby, and baby Groot has the Walkman headphones on, I believe. He has Peter Quill's Walkman, and he's dancing around to this song, and in the background there's just all chaos. Of this fighting.
Yeah.
And it is my most favorite thing.
Yeah.
I love it so much. And I watched that because I have a thing with movie sequels where I'm just always worried they're not going to be as good as the first one.
Yes, me too.
So when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, it's going to be good.
Yeah.
And it's a good movie. I like Guardians too, but it was that opening sequence is so good to me. It's my favorite opening sequence in the Marvel universe at this point.
Period. I have a hot take that'll transition us from what you just said to my next movie.
Okay.
This is a hot take. Get ready for the controversy because I've had arguments, verbal disagreements with people about this.
All right.
But speaking of movies where the sequel is not as good as the first one, Pitch Perfect. I'm sorry, Pitch Perfect 2 is bad.
That's
bad.
True. It's just worse.
It's bad. Like it's not good. But however, Pitch Perfect, the opening of Pitch Perfect.
What is the opening of Pitch Perfect?
The opening of Pitch Perfect is the ICCAs when Aubrey pukes all over the audience.
It opens with the Troublemakers though. They're the first song because they do.
That's true. It opens with
Please Don't Stop the Music.
I think
is that their opening?
Yeah. Yes. So the whole opening sequence is the ICCAs the year before, like the plot
judges,
of the movie.
Their commentary is amazing.
Elizabeth Banks, and what's that guy's name? It's just incredible. And it again, like Sam said something about stakes earlier. And I think what's so funny about the Pitch Perfect opening is as much as it's, it's a collegiate level. John Michael Higgins. It's Elizabeth Banks.
Thank you so much,
John
Michael Higgins.
He's incredible. As much as it's like, a collegiate level a cappella competition, what's so incredible about Pitch Perfect is how they elevate the stakes of that to be just so intense. And that is set up from the moment it begins. It's like so high budget, so high production. They like sound incredible. Like its performance is like you've never fucking seen.
Yeah.
And then I also, one of the things, this is another one of my key things about an opening of something is if it breaks my expectations. And that's what that opening scene of Pitch Perfect is, because you're dropped into the middle of a collegiate level a cappella competition and you're like, what the hell is going on? This is insane. And then she pukes all over the stage.
And you're like, I did not expect that.
You do not see it coming. Like it is so jarring. It's like actually takes you aback. And then that just catapults you into the rest of the movie. So I think that is and it's coupled with just some of the fucking best humor ever, because those Elizabeth Banks and John Michael Higgins have the best one-liners in the best dynamic. It is so funny. Oh my God. That was one of my other movies.
Speaking of, I will get to La La Land, but speaking of two characters that open, that dialogue is so good. One of my other favorite movie openings is to The Social Network, which is a drama film about the conception of Facebook.
Yeah.
For anyone who hasn't seen the opening of The Social Network, it is the guy who made Facebook, and I can't think of his name right now. Mark Zuckerberg. Thank you so much. He's on a date with a girl, and they have this like 2-minute back and forth, like no pausing, like conversation / argument that ends up with her literally getting up from the table and being like, "This date is over. I'm so done with this." Because he is just ridiculous. Like I was so immediately hooked because I was like, I cannot imagine trying to have a conversation with this guy, because everything she says, he immediately is like, but this.
That rapid fire. Yeah.
And it's so back and forth. And it's another thing, we didn't talk about this pilot, but Gilmore Girls starts the pilot the same way.
Yes.
It's immediately
doesn't let you catch your breath.
Back and forth. And that's another thing that Social Network does really well, especially in the opening sequence. It's right there.
Yeah.
And I love it so much. And I was like, ooh, like I could just tell that this is going to be a good movie just from that opening little debate between those two on their date.
That's so good.
I've been putting off talking about it, but the other opening I had written down was La La Land. And I have a little bit of feelings about the La La Land opening.
Sure.
My thing with La La Land in general is I feel like, and this might just be me being a theater snob.
Sure.
I feel like the singing isn't very good.
Well, it's Hollywood actors.
Yeah. And
the only singer in the cast is John Legend.
True. And he's incredible.
Yeah.
I think Ryan Gosling also did really well.
Mm-hmm.
Emma Stone, I think in Fools Who Dream at the end, did well. But in terms of the opening of Another Day of Sun, it's always felt kind of quiet to me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, where's the
No, it's not.
It feels very quiet. It's not, and that might be mixing. That might just,
No, because you're so right. Because I also, in this show that I just did like, we sang La La Land, and there's vocals in the song that like there are nowhere. If you are just listening to the original recording,
it's just not there.
They're just not there.
Yeah. But I love the opening. It's another one like Baby Driver where everything's timed to the music. Another thing I love about the La La Land opening is it's not necessarily filmed in all one take, but it's edited to look like one continuous take. I believe they film it in 3, but it's like a 6-minute number that they do in just 3 takes.
Yeah.
And I love movies that do continuous takes. I think they're
like
so interesting.
Oh my God.
I haven't seen that. But
it's mind-blowing.
I love continuous takes so much.
Yes.
So I absolutely love the opening to La La Land. Obviously, I'm a musical theater person, so I love a good movie musical. I think it's great. A little to be desired with the vocals, but I think the dancing,
it starts out with a bang.
It starts with a bang, and it's very, very good to me as a movie opener.
Yes. I only had one other opener.
Okay.
And again, I said it earlier, currently obsessed with Greta Gerwig. I would not have gotten through this episode without talking about a Greta Gerwig film at least once. And in this case, it is Lady Bird, which will come up constantly on this podcast because I need
to rewatch Lady Bird. So I can talk to you about it.
I watched Lady Bird twice last week. And the week before that, I watched Little Women 3 times.
Oh my gosh.
Little Women 2019. So I'm in a Greta Gerwig moment. I am in a Greta Gerwig moment. But what I love about the opening of Lady Bird, again, starting off with a bang in a very, very, very different way. Within the first 3 minutes of the film, Saoirse Ronan throws herself out of a moving vehicle.
Yep.
So it's starting off with a bang. But there's such simple dialogue and quite simple staging. One of the things that I love about Lady Bird is that it feels like it's staged like a play in a lot of the moments. But it's quite simple staging and it's quite simple dialogue. But the dynamic of the relationship between Lady Bird and I don't remember what her mom's name is.
I'll look it up.
And her mother, Laurie Metcalf and Saoirse Ronan. It's so stark from the beginning. The first shot of the movie is them lying in bed together, facing each other. Like they are sleeping in the same bed and they are facing each other.
Her name is Marion.
And they're even in like their pattern, the pattern of their pajamas is similar. Like there's this very tender moment and then they are fighting. And like in the next shot, like immediately they're having like a little mother-daughter back and forth. And it just sets up the relationship. That is what that whole movie is about. I could go on and on and on about Lady Bird, but again, that I think is another, there's 2 things there for me. There's the, kind of starting off with a bang, broken expectation. She throws herself out of the car. And also again, performances, because I am an actor and I do have a director brain. So like that opening sequence, I lean in and tense up, and at the same time I'm like warm. Like I can't describe it, but like those 2 things happen at the same time.
Absolutely.
But yeah. All right, should we go to music? I think we should go to music.
Sure. So the whole time Emma and I have been talking about doing this as a category, she has said that she thinks we're going to have one of the same ones.
I do.
And I'm very curious as to know if it's actually the same thing.
Should we count down?
Oh, sorry. I just did it.
Yes.
Brutal, which is the opening to the album Sour by Olivia Rodrigo.
It's
I don't even know if I have words for Brutal as an opening.
It's incredible. I do have words. The words are broken expectation. Again, it's the broken expectation, because there's multiple levels of the broken expectation in Brutal too, because first of all, there's broken expectation within the song itself, because there's the string part and then it goes into the rock beat, which within the song itself, there's this like drop, there's this moment where it's like, oh, whoa, things are different now. That's crazy. But also on top of that, there's a broken expectation to the fact that like it kicks off the album immediately letting you know that this is not the Olivia Rodrigo that you were expecting to get on this album.
It's nothing like the singles either.
Yes. So it's just because, like, I mean, it's called Sour. She had just gone through a breakup. Like, people knew that it would be a breakup album, but a lot of her music is like kind of on the prettier side. You can say like the softer, prettier side. And we got a hint of that with like Good For You, but that's still a breakup song. And Brutal is just nothing like any of the music that we had heard of hers before. Even if you like follow her on Instagram and like go back and like
never
listen to
heard
all of
anything
her
like
music,
Brutal
there's
before.
nothing like that. And so it's that broken expectation that is just, I was like gagged when I listened to it for the first time. I was gone.
Absolutely.
So I knew we would have the same one.
I knew we both were gonna have Brutal as one because we love Taylor Swift, so we have to love Olivia Rodrigo. The next one I want to talk about, speaking of Taylor Swift, she has incredible albums, as we all know.
Yes.
And I love so many of her songs, but when I was thinking about album openers, I really wanted to pick a song that I felt represented the album as a whole, and the one that I thought started off with like, oh, this is the vibe.
Oh, I hope we have the same one.
I don't know. Okay, we might have different ones, but the one that I picked of her albums is Fearless from Fearless.
Okay, word. That's fair. We do not have the same one.
Okay. But I just think that song, and people have told me that I'm in my Fearless era right now, which might be why I'm leaning towards Fearless.
You certainly are.
And I loved her new version of the album. Those bonus tracks are like all I listen to ever.
They're amazing.
So good. So I love Fearless as an album, and I also love Fearless as the opening song. And I feel like it perfectly sets up, this is an album about love, but it's also an album about coming into your own. And I just love that as the opening for that album, especially where it comes like in like concession with her other albums.
Yeah.
Like where Fearless is in terms of where she's started and where she's going. I love that era.
And it's similar. It's like such a different sound than the debut album. So it's like right off the bat, something different. I agree. But okay. So I was like, obviously I have to have a Taylor Swift song. Like who am I to not have a Taylor Swift song?
I know, seriously.
What the fuck is that? So I was like, but I was like, but what really is her best album opener? And it like took me a second.
It did.
And I was
took me a while too.
I don't know, because when I was thinking about album openers, no Taylor Swift songs like jumped out at me. And so then I went and I looked at her discography and I was like, are you kidding? One of the best album openers ever. Ready for it. Are you kidding? Because again, first of all, I'm a person who really enjoys, when I think about albums and I think about somebody's musical career, I look at like the whole thing, like the whole discography. And this is because I'm a Swiftie, but like in every artist, I think about like eras and like the time that music is coming from. And Reputation, it just took the world by storm. It did so unexpected, and Ready for It is the second that starts. And talk about kicking off with a bang. Nothing that anybody ever could have expected. It sets up what the whole rest of the album is about, what it's going to sound like, everything. So I just had to mention Ready for It. Yeah, and it's a sound that she hasn't done before. Yes, like just so unexpected. So it's a very good opener. Anything. It is a very, very good, and also Ready for It. Just like that's like it's the theme of the song. Is like, are you ready for this new sound in this new era? And I think it's amazing. One of the other ones that I had was What the Fuck Do I Know, Miley Cyrus, Plastic Hearts. I think that it's not necessarily a different sound per se than like some of her work before that, because she had obviously, that's like going into Plastic Hearts was not the giant transition in her career that had already come with the end of Montana into like the VMAs and all of that. But What the Fuck Do I Know, I think is it, first of all, banger, just banger. All the songs on that album are bangers, but it also sets up a kind of this theme, the theme of the album, which is, it's a breakup album, but it's post-divorce. So it's like a breakup album to a new degree. But also it like asks you to not expect of it what you would expect, which I think is so interesting, because it doesn't necessarily break expectation within that first song. But because I was like, this sounds like Miley Cyrus. Later songs in the album are like not exactly what I expected. And literally the song is asking like, what are you asking of me? Like, why are you expecting anything in particular from me? I can't give that to you. So I just think that that's a really interesting kickoff to that album.
I actually also wrote down a Miley Cyrus album, but not that one.
Okay.
I wrote down that I really love her Younger Now album, because for me, obviously she had a turning point in her career when she left Hannah Montana, but then after her first couple albums, there was a second turning point with Younger Now.
Yeah.
And Younger Now is the title track and also the opener. And I just remember when I heard that Miley had released a new album, I was like, I probably won't listen to it. Like at that point, I wasn't really a big fan of what Miley had been doing beforehand. And I heard that song and I was like, no way. No way this is Miley Cyrus right now.
Yeah.
Because it's completely...
It is.
It sounds almost like her old music, but it's like a completely new way of approaching it. And I'm in love with that album. And I think it also has... Even though she was married at this point, I think it has a little bit of like, there are some songs from like, like what's going on in their relationship right now?
Oh yeah.
And I love that album. And I love that the title track is the opener, because she has been on such a long journey since Hannah Montana ended and got so much criticism and all this kind of stuff. And this is her being like, this is who I am. And like, I feel happier and I feel younger and like, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
And I just love that track so much.
That's a good song. One thing that I really love in an album is when the first song makes, like, if you listen from beginning to end, there's like a really well-rounded experience. And that is kicked off with the first song. And so I have two kind of examples of this. One is Wonder by Shawn Mendes from the album Wonder. Because I just really like how that song, there's something really satisfying to me about tracks at any point in an album that transition, like the songs run right into each other.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
I love when that happens.
And that album does that. And I love when that happens, that by the time you finish, you've had like a completely well-rounded experience. So that was it for me for music.
I only had one more, and it was Golden, which is the opening to Fine Line by Harry Styles.
Golden too.
And I
fucking love that song.
I'm going to be honest here. I still have not listened to the entirety of Fine Line.
Sure.
But I will say Golden is the perfect song to open that album.
It's incredible.
I could listen to that song on repeat every single day and not get tired of it.
I used to do that.
That song, I did do
that too.
That song makes me want to listen to the rest of the album.
I agree.
Because it is just, that song is so refreshing. You're so golden. It's so refreshing. So good.
That is such a good word for it too.
That song, genuinely, okay. Picture this, folks.
Okay.
Picture this.
I'm going to close my eyes.
That song, okay, close your eyes. That song, although it's not the song Watermelon Sugar, feels like a summer day. It's like sunny. You're like getting a little warm. And to cool off, you bite into a piece of watermelon. And that's what that song feels like. Right? Like it feels like summer and it feels so refreshing. And I just love that song. And I love that it's how it opens.
And then it's just like the vibes. Then it's just like the vibes of the album. Because also Fine Line and Harry Styles, like the album Harry Styles, could not be any more different. Like Harry Styles, the title album is so fucking depressing and so dark and slow, and Fine Line is the exact opposite of that. And so I agree, like it sets off the vibe from the beginning, and then you're like, oh my god, wait, I'm gonna love this.
Absolutely. All right, our last category is openings to musicals,
plays and musicals.
Let's hear your plays.
I brought up Our Town earlier.
Yes.
I love the opening of Our Town. The beginning of Our Town, it starts. Great opening. Our Town is just one of my favorite plays ever. But I love how Our Town starts because, again, broken expectation. That really seems to be the key here with a good opening. That's one of the big things that we keep saying. But with Our Town, especially in its time, the opening lines of Our Town are, this play is called Our Town. It is directed by blank. It is produced by blank. And you fill in the names of the people who are working on it, and you talk about the theater and whatever. So like the actors enter to the stage and immediately break the fourth wall and say, this is a play. You're not watching real people. We're watching real people. These characters are not, these characters are not real people. This is fake. This is a play. You're in a theater, and you're watching a play. And I just think that's incredible because I love meta things. And again, it's that immediate broken expectation, and it sets you up to understand that throughout the play, you need to understand that what you are watching is a play, and that time will not be linear, and that whatever, you understand the setting immediately as if you are like, I mean, like the playwright is literally right there in the room with you, which is incredible because he's dead now. So like, but it's just, I think, amazing. So I had to mention the opening of Our Town. And also one of the most incredible theatrical experiences as an audience member that I've ever had. I mean, maybe the most incredible, but specifically, you know, to talk about an opening, I saw a production of a play called What to Send Up When It Goes Down by a playwright named Alicia Harris in Boston. It was on its national tour in 2019. I know the date. It was November 23rd on 2019 because I auditioned for the Boston Conservatory the same day, and then we went to see it. It is an incredible piece of theater. It is it's a Black ensemble of actors, crew members, the playwright director, and it's a play primarily in response to police brutality, and it is an incredibly immersive experience. Like the way that the play is written is incredibly interactive. It's incredibly immersive, but that starts from the very beginning. As soon as you enter the theater, rather than sitting down in a seat, everybody stands in a circle. So the audience and the actors are standing in a circle all together. And the play starts with a series of interactive experiences. There's like you write on, you kind of like write your responses or your thoughts about police brutality or about specific situations on like pieces of paper. So like there's the chance to write about things. There's the chance for audience members and actors to share words and like speak to each other about the topic before going into the play. And then there's just one of the most absolutely like terrifying moments of maybe my entire life, like sensory moments ever, is everybody standing in that circle does a collective scream, and everybody in the circle screams at the top of their lungs for as long as they need to. And it was terrifying. You close your eyes and you scream, and like your body is taken over by screaming, and it's fucking terrifying. It was terrifying. Like I was screaming, and I couldn't scream anymore because my throat was full of tears. Like if you know that feeling, like it's crazy. But I just think that what's so interesting about that, there's obviously a lot there that's really interesting, but one of the things that I have always been taught, that my parents always taught me about theater, specifically live theater, is the importance of taking care of your audience, and like fostering an environment between audiences and actors that is healthy and safe, and productive, especially in a piece of theater like that, where you're, handling some heavy topics. And so that experience of like, because again, that's obviously breaking the fourth wall. There's no walls in that case, and a very like interactive experience, where your expectations, I mean, we all knew that was going to happen going into the show, because obviously that was, there were pretty rave reviews about that experience because it's so unique. But it was just nothing like I've ever experienced before. And it prepared me for that emotional experience and like mental journey of seeing that show like nothing I've ever experienced before. So that's probably the best opening on this list, and I just had to throw that into the mix.
Absolutely. Well, none of my openings are anywhere near that serious because mine are all musicals.
Yes.
I
have a couple of musicals too.
All right. Emma and I have talked about this before, and she was like, save it for the pod. So my absolute favorite opening of any musical ever is the opening to Frozen the musical.
Yes.
And it holds a very special place in my heart because Frozen was the first musical I saw on Broadway after I gotten into musical theater college. So it was the first time I'd seen a show and been like, oh my God, this is actually kind of in my grasp. And I was bawling my eyes out in like the first 5 minutes. My mom was like, are you okay? And I couldn't handle it. But I love the opening number for a few reasons. One, like the movie, Frozen the musical starts with Voulez, which is the na 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 hey ya na, the theme from Frozen that everyone knows. Yeah, it starts immediately with that, so you're already like, oh, settling back into the story. Brings in the characters we're already familiar with, Anna, Elsa, their parents. You get a little more perspective on them, and then it brings in a whole new melodic theme, Let the Sun Shine On, which then is laced through the entire show and is the finale of the show. Once everything is resolved and there's happiness back in Arendelle and Elsa's finally at peace, you get that moment from when she was a kid and when she was happy, Let the Sun Shine On. And then you get it again at the end when she's finally discovered her powers. You get it again. And I cannot handle that opening. I'm so in love with it. Let the Sun Shine On is like insane to me. I wish I could play a clip of it on the pod. I don't know if that's copyright allowed.
Yeah, I don't know.
But please go listen.
Yeah.
To Let the Sun Shine On from Frozen the musical, because it's incredible.
One of my favorite openers of all time is the 42nd Street opener. And it is pretty much just because I love tap dancing, and I remember seeing that opener staged live for the first time. It was at Pinkerton Academy, our high school.
Hey, I saw it there too. Pinkerton Academy.
And
hey.
I was sitting in the seat, and like it was just this feeling that I don't get from musical theater a lot, but I understand that's probably what most people feel when they see a musical, of just like sinking further into my seat and being like, yes, just take me away. Just let me listen to this beautiful music and let me just lean back and be blown away by this moment. There's something just about the spectacle of that, because I tend to be so like nuanced and I love specific details and like little brilliant things, but like being able to just like lean back and take in just the sheer amount of feet, the sheer amount of like sound, and it's so amplified by, even though it is spectacle, the way that show starts is it's a giant tap number where it starts that the curtain only rises to about knee level, so all you can see is just a sea of tap shoes, and I just love it. It's just this feeling of like, oh my God, I'm just gonna relax and listen to some people tap dance for an hour and a half, and it's just gonna be fun.
Absolutely.
So that is one of mine.
Yeah. If we're talking about spectacle musicals,
yes,
one of my favorite spectacle musicals, it's kind of like a guilty pleasure musical, is Legally Blonde.
Sure.
And I think, oh my God, you guys, as the opening track of Legally Blonde, it's like the only thing they could have picked as the opening track of Legally Blonde.
That's true.
And it's just such a good fit. One. And it goes with the opening sequence of the movie as well, because it kind of has to. Yeah. But it just perfectly, you get that idea of she's a sorority girl. These are like the kind of people she's around. But then you also get within that song that Elle has serious things on her mind. Like she's thinking about getting married. And while that might not be like, obviously she ends up going to Harvard and she becomes a lawyer and she finds more important things in her life, but to her, like that's important. Yeah. And she's not just some like party girl who doesn't care about anything. It shows right from the start that like Elle's serious about this. And when she's serious about something, like she's determined. Yeah. And I just really love that as the opener for Legally Blonde. It's really good.
That's a good one. Also, girl power.
Yes.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no men in that number.
Let's see. I believe that is a women's only opening number. Yes.
Period. Okay. Well, then I'm sold. This is strange. This is a weird one. Okay. However, I'm obsessed with the 2019 revival of Oklahoma. I'm obsessed with it. I went through a period of time where Oh, What a Beautiful Morning, which is the opening song, I would listen to it. And I did not have Spotify Premium, so I would walk around with like YouTube open, like the YouTube link. Like I would, and then it would like, if my phone would shut off, the song would pause. So I had to walk around with my phone on with YouTube on, listening to Oh What a Beautiful Morning from the 2019 Oklahoma revival. But I am just obsessed with it. Again, that's a performance thing, I think. But there's something about it. There's something about the sound and the way that, because I did see it live. There's something about the sound, A. B, when you see it live, there's obviously the set, there's the like that shows in the round.
Yeah.
Damon Toronto, who plays Curly, is the name of the character, plays his own guitar in the musical the whole time. He plays his own music on the guitar in all of his songs. And so again, to go back to Broken Expectation, you know from the start that it is going to be nothing like Oklahoma, the Oklahoma that you may know and love. There's something about that song. Obviously, there's the idea of opening because it's the song about the morning and whatever. So there's like it like opens the show on a very nice note, but I also think it's interesting because for its time, like Oklahoma, it's a Rodgers and Hammerstein musical, like coming right out of kind of the golden age of musical theater, and the opening number is a solo that never happens. Like that never ever happens. And so it is so easy. And again, I've seen it. That song can be so fucking boring. Like that, it's a pretty snoozy opening number to a musical, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
But that performance of that song in the context of that show, it sold me. And I was so excited from that moment on to see the rest of it, because I was like, oh, this is not going to be Oklahoma. This is going to be something different. And it was amazing. And just listen to his voice. It's like molasses.
Well, I think that's the end of our main section, Emma.
Oh my God.
We just talked about what makes a great opening. I don't know. Well, everyone, thank you so much.
Hopefully you took something from that.
Hopefully you took something from.
Did you learn something?
Head over to our Instagram along
Please
with
do.
what Starbucks drink you feel like today. Let us know what your
Our
favorite
Instagram,
opening might be.
It is
So
PlayChat Pod.
PlayChat Pod.
PlayChatPod. We got so lucky that all of our social media had the name of our podcast.
All of it's exactly
available.
the same name. I know.
Also, our TikTok.
So that's, you can follow us.
You can follow us.
So you can follow us Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. At PlayChat Pod.
Yes.
We also do have a Patreon. The Patreon is linked in our Instagram bio, our Twitter bio. I believe it's also in our TikTok bio. It's everywhere. So you can find us linked all over that. If you want to follow either of us personally, I'm Sam D. Griff. Emma is M. Cahoon, EMMCAHOON.
Heck yeah.
So give us a follow. We want to say a few thank yous to people that helped make this episode possible.
Yes.
Thank you so much to Christine Kattar, our editor, and to Syndey Stager, our producer, whose birthday it is today. Happy birthday, Syndey. We also want to say a big thank you to Michael Overko, who wrote our theme song, which is so great. So great. So thank you, everyone. Obviously, big thanks to our friends and families who are supporting us, listening to this podcast. And
if you listened to this moment,
you guys. Wow. Thank you so much.
If you listened to this moment,
I can't believe we're here.
I can't believe we're here either.
I know. So next pod will be coming out on September 27th, episode 2.
Yes, it will be.
It's a secret for now, but we are expecting to have a special guest on with us next week.
Special guest star and
special guest.
I think there will be a special guest and original writing next week. So
it'll
look a bit different than this week, which is exciting. So you'll have to stream.
Absolutely. Keep an eye out for our voting sections for next week, so you can pick what Emma and I talk about in our private sections. And thank you all so much for listening.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. This was a lot of fun. All right, everyone. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye, everybody.
Bye. PlayChat Podcast is written and hosted by Emma Cahoon and Sam Griffin. It is edited by Christine Kattar and produced by Syndey Stager. Our theme song is written by Michael Overko.